I see you've spent some time at the zoo and in the circus. Very interesting, very impressive. I look forward to hearing more about that. But first, I'd like to ask you what you consider to be one of your greatest weaknesses. You know, I'm a humble person. Some say the most humble. If I had to pinpoint my single greatest weakness, it would be that I work too hard. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a little ashamed to admit it, but I would work nights and weekends just to make sure the job gets done right. I know it might not be what you wanted to hear, but I just felt I had to be honest with you about my greatest weakness. Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about how you can take the next steps in your career. Today we're going to go over the interview question, tell me about your biggest weakness. What is your greatest weakness? You've got to love this question. At face value, it feels like there's no way out. Do they really want you to tell them one of your weaknesses? You're at this interview to show them how amazing you are. Do they really want you to tell them that punctuality isn't really your strong suit? There's typically 3 answers to this question, and we're going to get into each of those right now. Number 1 is a fake or backhanded weakness. My biggest weakness would have to be that I just work too hard. I'm a perfectionist. I hold myself too accountable for the job I need to do. I get frustrated when things don't get done correctly. I just care too much. The thought is, make your weakness sound like a strength. And it's a bit cliche, it's a bit played out, and your interviewer is going to see right through this. The second way that you can approach this question is by providing a real weakness. With your real weakness, you don't try to play games, you just come right out and say what the interviewer needs to hear. My weakness? I will call in sick when a game drops on PlayStation. I don't really want to waste my PTO. Love the honesty, but don't do this. The third way you can approach this question is by letting the interviewer know a real genuine weakness, but we also let them know what we're doing to fix that weakness. We all have weaknesses, okay? No one's gonna crucify you for not being perfect. The purpose of this question isn't just to figure out what your weaknesses are. More importantly, the purpose of this question is to figure out how you are addressing that weakness in your life and attempting to make it better. How are you trying to grow from your weakness, not just let it overcome you? With this answer, we're gonna pick a real weakness. We're not gonna use a cliche answer. Maybe you lose track of time pretty easily, or you're not the best multitasker in the world. Maybe you struggle to speak up in meetings when you know that you should be more outspoken. These are all reasonable weaknesses that you or anybody could have. What we want to do with this response is be honest. I mean, maybe not too honest, but honest about our weaknesses, where our weak spots lie. We want to show that we're working on them, that we're putting systems in place to ensure that these weaknesses aren't going to be impacting our job performance in a negative way. If you'll notice, everything we've talked about up to this point has been in a professional context. All of these weaknesses are weaknesses that you'll find in the workplace. The interviewer does not need to know that you struggle with your willpower when it comes to chocolate cake, or anything like that. You might be tempted to use a personal example or a personal weakness that you might think technically qualifies as an answer for this question, but doesn't make you look bad at your job. Resist this urge. This doesn't need to be a scary question. Like we talked about, if you answer this question correctly, you'll be able to show the interviewer that you are more self-aware than a potato, but also that you see these challenges and weaknesses as opportunities to overcome them, as opportunities to make your failures your successes, to show that your weaknesses don't need to define you and that you are stronger than them and you can overcome them. That's really what this question is about. Let's take a look at a good example where we're showing the interviewer that we're a well-rounded candidate, that we know our weakness, and that we've put systems in place to turn that weakness into a strength. Let's get into it. I would have to say that I really struggle with keeping track of all the things I need to do day to day. With my meetings, calls, daily and weekly reports, I'm often overwhelmed and can easily lose track of what needs to be done and done by when. It's because of this, though, that I religiously use my digital calendar and my to-do list. I found that trying to remember everything is impossible, but by building the habit of writing down my meetings and tasks right when I get them, I've been able to meet all of my deadlines much more reliably. In fact, I've also found that by doing this, I really free up my attention so that I can totally focus 100% on what I am doing, rather than worrying about whether or not I should be working on another project. Wow, that was a great example of taking a real, genuine weakness and turning it into a strength. Now, I'm gonna break down this response a little bit because there's a couple key points that I really want you to take away when you are creating your own response to this question. First, notice we did not shy away from our weakness. I struggle to know when things are due. That's a bad weakness at work, okay? But we all have this kind of weakness. Maybe not this one, but we all have weaknesses that we'd rather not share. And that's kind of the point of this question. Answering it and giving a real weakness to the interviewer shows that we are self-aware, that we're honest, and that we recognize when we have a weakness that needs to be addressed. And that's the key. It's something that needs to be addressed. If we had just stopped right there, it would have been a horrible answer, right? But we actually use our authentic weakness to set up the fact that we are putting systems in place to resolve the weakness, right? We talked about how we use our calendar, our daily agenda, we write down our tasks as soon as we get them. We showed that we put these systems in place and are able to turn our weakness into our strength. And that's actually a great habit to have whether or not you consider this your weakness. And in fact, by putting these systems in place, this person is probably better off than anybody else at actually remembering everything they need to do because it's all written down. They've put the habits in place to make them a better and more productive person because they considered this their weakness. And that's the beauty of this answer. We're not just accounting for our weakness, we're turning it on its head. We just told the interviewer that we're exceptionally organized, that we use our daily tracker religiously, with the cherry on top that we can be 100% focused on our given task because we have a system in place that will let us know when things are due so we can focus on exactly what's in front of us. Now you can use this response with any weakness. You just need to show that A, you're aware of your weaknesses, and B, that you have already put systems in place to turn that weakness into a strength. That's what the interviewer wants to hear when they're asking this question, and that's what's going to win you the most points when you're answering the question, tell me about your biggest weakness. If you have a weakness like this that you've overcome and turned into a strength, leave a comment below. That would be just amazing to have a comment section full of weaknesses that have been turned into strengths. Love that. Most wholesome comment section on YouTube. Anyways, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, check out some of my other interview preparation videos. I'd love it if you could leave some feedback on these videos. Let me know what you want to see because I'm here for you to help you find your dream job and to move on to the next step in your career.